and welcome back to the 9th night of the 13 Nights of Fright on my channel. I'm your host, Olivia Garcia. Now, as always, tonight's video might include some topics that could be triggering and might be too scary for some viewers, so if that is you, please proceed with caution. Now that's out of the way, on with the video. Tonight we're going to be talking about my favorite monster or urban legend of all time, vampires. I have been obsessed with vampires since I was a little child. I used to cut out fangs out of paper and stick them in my teeth and run around my house pretending I was a vampire. I refused to eat garlic and I refused to go out in the sunlight. Yes, I was a weird child. But the fact that I'm crazy is besides the point. A lot of people don't know the origin story of vampires. They know who Dracula is, but they don't know where Dracula came from. So the vampire freak is here to enlighten you. Now, the version of the vampire legend that we know today actually comes from Bram Stoker, the creator of Count Dracula.
He is a monster. He is the devil himself.
It's said that Bram Stoker based the character of Count Dracula off of Vlad Dracula, who also went by the nickname Vlad the Impaler. Fun fact, the name Dracula actually comes from the word drac, which in Romanian means devil. So, kind of creepy. So, you might be wondering where Vlad the Impaler got his nickname. Well, he wasn't known for being the most merciful person, but when he would kill his enemies, he would stab them with a wooden stake through the heart. Legend says that Vlad often enjoyed dining with his victims as they were dying. He was known to dip his bread into their blood and eat it as a trophy. Now, whether or not you believe these stories, people still think that Vlad the Impaler was in fact the inspiration behind the Count Dracula character because he was from Transylvania, he drank the blood of his victims, and he could be killed with a stake to the heart. Now, besides Vlad the Impaler, you might be wondering where the actual superstition behind vampires came from. Well, back in the Middle Ages in Eastern Europe, plagues often decimated entire towns, and without medical explanations to back them up, people often searched for supernatural reasons as to why these things were happening. One of the main diseases that came about is called porphyria, a blood disease that caused blisters on the skin when a victim was exposed to sunlight. Hence, vampires can't go out in the sun. And here's where it gets kind of weird. One of the temporary treatments for porphyria is ingesting blood. So, of course you would think they're vampires. Now, when somebody died from one of these diseases, the villagers would often go to their grave and dig up their body to see what actually caused their death. But what they would find is someone with a bloated stomach, longer fingernails, longer hair, and occasionally blood dripping from their mouth, which, from what we know now, is all signs of body decomposition. But back then, they had no idea. The villagers thought that people were actually vampires who would get up in the middle of the night and go into town and feed on their victims, only to return to their grave before the morning struck, which then made them come up with some weird superstitions to keep the vampires at bay. They first started off by hanging garlic outside of the doors in the hopes that the smell of the garlic would deter the vampires. Then they got more creative when it came to burying the dead bodies. They would put a wooden stake through their heart to prevent them from rising from the grave, and they would also place a brick in their mouth to prevent them from turning into a vampire. I don't know how that actually was supposed to work, but they thought it did. Eventually, the excavation of graves became so prevalent that the Empress of Austria actually sent out a physician to go disprove the whole vampire myth altogether. But the legend of the vampire did live on through all of this time, so who knows if they actually disproved the theory or not. Which I'm kind of hoping they didn't, but that's just me because I'm actually crazy, but whatever. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's story, and I hope you guys learned something cool about vampires. If you're a huge vampire fan like me and have any cool vampire movies, drop them down below, or if you just like vampires altogether and want to talk about them down below, that's cool too. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys tonight, and I will see you tomorrow night for another spooky story. Peace out. Bye! Still dripping in sweat. Didn't get a fan. Bye.